These are 10 actors who became legends because of a single unforgettable role. Some of these performances almost never happened, others nearly destroyed the films they were in, and a few involved methods so extreme they bordered on dangerous. What follows is the story of how one character can transform an entire career. Captain Jack Sparrow. A decade of independent films with mixed success had made Johnny Depp a recognizable face, but before the red bandana and iconic hat, he hadn't reached the peak levels of fame that would soon follow. Pirates of the Caribbean. The Curse of the Black Pearl changed everything when it hit theaters, and the transformation happened almost despite the studio's best efforts to stop it. Disney executives were horrified when they first saw what Depp was doing with the character.
You're mad.
Thank goodness for that, because if I wasn't, this would probably never work.
Captain Jack Sparrow emerged as a blend of Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards and Looney Tunes characters like Bugs Bunny and Pepe Le Pew, which left the studio ambivalent and questioning whether audiences would accept something so strange.
Man the yard, you filthy toads!
The expectations were dismal since the pirate genre hadn't produced a hit in years, and many executives and journalists predicted a complete flop. What they got instead was a $654 million phenomenon that proved them spectacularly wrong. Director Gore Verbinski signed on in June 2002, filming began October 9th of that year, and shooting wrapped by March 7, 2003, for a July 9, 2003 release. The budget sat at $140 million, a massive investment in what many considered a doomed project. Depp's performance earned widespread acclaim and brought him Academy Award, Golden Globe, and BAFTA nominations, plus wins for the Screen Actors Guild Award and MTV Movie Award for Best Actor. The financial progression tells its own story about how valuable Depp became to the franchise. That first film paid him $10 million, which seemed like good money, until the second film arrived and his base salary jumped to $20 million, with back-end points pushing his total to $60 million for Dead Man's Chest alone. By the time all 5 films wrapped, Depp had collected $265 million from the franchise, and those 5 films together earned $4.5 billion as of 2021. His entire filmography has grossed $8 billion worldwide, cementing his status as one of the biggest box office draws of his generation. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer confirmed that Pirates of the Caribbean 6 is in development, but the news came with a disappointment that left fans frustrated. Johnny Depp will not be reprising his iconic character, marking the end of an era for the franchise that made him a superstar.
I've heard of you, and you know who I am.
Face is familiar. Have I threatened you before?
You were in the presence of George Augustus, Duke of Brunswick-Lundberg, Arch-Treasurer and Prince-Elector of the Holy Roman Empire, King of Great Britain and Ireland, and of you.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Hannibal Lecter, 17 minutes of screen time, was all Anthony Hopkins needed to create one of cinema's most terrifying villains and secure an Academy Award for Best Actor. The efficiency of that performance remains unmatched, and the impact stretched far beyond what those limited minutes might suggest.
You use Javier skin cream. But not today.
February 14, 1991, brought the release of The Silence of the Lambs, and by March 30, 1992, Jonathan Demme's cannibalistic thriller had made Oscar history as only the 3rd film ever to win the Big 5 Academy Awards. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay all went to this one film, a feat that hadn't been accomplished since One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in 1975, and no movie has matched it since. Gene Hackman was originally set to direct and potentially star before dropping out entirely. Director Jonathan Demme needed a British actor for the role, and Jodie Foster explained the reasoning by saying Lecter is a manipulator who uses language to keep people at bay, adding that you wanted to see that Shakespearean monster on screen. Foster herself wasn't the first choice either, stepping in only after Michelle Pfeiffer turned down the role of Clarice Starling. A $19 million budget produced a film that grossed $272 million worldwide, making it the 5th highest-grossing film of 1991. The release strategy defied conventional wisdom by opening wide on Valentine's Day, far removed from the usual year-end window reserved for awards contenders. The movie debuted at number 1 and held that position for 5 consecutive weeks, eventually being supplanted by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, but continuing to earn throughout its theatrical run. Success arrived alongside controversy that erupted during awards season. ACT UP and Queer Nation organized loud protests outside the Academy Awards ceremony, resulting in multiple arrests as activists chanted their objections to what they saw as problematic representation. GLAAD had spoken out earlier against the homophobia they perceived in the portrayal of James Gumb, known in the film as Buffalo Bill, focusing their criticism on the depiction of a serial killer with gender identity issues. The AFI labeled Hopkins' performance as the #1 film villain of all time, a distinction that is held for decades. 2024 brought an unexpected postscript when Donald Trump repeatedly referenced Hannibal Lecter during his presidential campaign, describing him as a wonderful man and speaking of the character as if he were real.
The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lamb. He's a lovely man. Silence of the Lamb. You know what that is? Has anybody seen Silence of the Lambs? You know, the press is always on me because I say this. Has anyone seen Silence of the Lambs? You know, they go crazy when I mention Dr. Hannibal Lecter. You know who that was? Hannibal Lecter. How great an actor was he? But I mention him because we have people like that coming into our country. They're closing their insane asylums all over the world. They're sending their criminals into the United States.
Hopkins responded by saying he was shocked and appalled by the references.
Sorry for stopping your video, but you really should subscribe.
John McClane, moonlighting had made Bruce Willis a television star, known mainly for comedy, but Die Hard would transform him into something Hollywood didn't think was possible. What makes the story remarkable is how many people had to say no before Willis ever got the chance. The studio faced a contractual obligation that seemed like a joke but was entirely real. Because Die Hard adapted a novel that was the sequel to The Detective, Frank Sinatra had to be offered the role of John McClane first. 70 years old at the time, Sinatra declined, which opened the door to a parade of rejections from virtually every major action star in Hollywood. Sylvester Stallone, Richard Gere, Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, Burt Reynolds, Nick Nolte, Mel Gibson, Don Johnson, Richard Dean Anderson, Paul Newman, James Caan, and Al Pacino all passed on the role before the studio started looking elsewhere. Arnold Schwarzenegger got an offer but turned it down to star in Twins, wanting to branch out into comedy rather than add another action film to his resume. Willis initially said no as well because of his moonlighting obligations, but fate intervened when co-star Sybil Shepherd became pregnant. Production shut down for 11 weeks, giving Willis just enough time to film Die Hard between November 1987 and March 1988. The $25 to $35 million budget drew skepticism from industry insiders who saw the deal as controversial and the film as likely to fail. Marketing materials sometimes omitted Willis's image entirely because the publicity team decided the setting mattered as much as the lead character. The prevailing wisdom said audiences wanted muscle-bound, invincible action heroes, not a wisecracking guy from a romantic comedy series. July 15, 1988, proved all those assumptions wrong when Die Hard grossed approximately $140 million, becoming the 10th highest-grossing film of the year and the highest-grossing action film period. Willis performed most of his own stunts during filming, and in July 2007, he donated his blood and sweat-stained undershirt to the Smithsonian Institution. That shirt represents something specific about the character, an emblem of how McClane differs from the archetypal, invincible heroes who dominated the genre. The first 3 Die Hard films combined grossed over $700 million internationally and launched Willis into the first rank of Hollywood action stars, while the Library of Congress selected the original for preservation in 2017 for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant.
Next time you have a chance to kill someone, don't hesitate. Thanks for the advice.
Daniel Plainview. Daniel Day-Lewis is often called one of the greatest actors in cinema history, and There Will Be Blood stands as the performance that turned that reputation into an undeniable fact. Winning 3 Academy Awards for Best Actor made him the first person to reach that milestone, a record that remains unbroken. Paul Thomas Anderson wrote and directed this epic loosely based on Upton Sinclair's 1927 novel Oil, working with a $25 million budget that seemed modest for such an ambitious project. September 29, 2007 brought the first public screening at Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas, followed by a limited December 26, 2007 release that expanded to 885 theaters on January 25, 2008. Box office returns eventually reached $40.2 million in North America and $35.9 million internationally, for a worldwide total of $76.1 million. That sounds successful until you factor in the $40 million spent on prints and advertising for the United States release alone, which meant the film barely broke even theatrically, despite the critical acclaim that surrounded it. Method acting defines Day-Lewis's approach, despite his traditional training at the Bristol Old Vic, and his reputation for extreme preparation has become legendary across the industry.
Say it louder. I am a sinner.
I am a sinner.
Louder, Daniel. I am a sinner.
I am a sinner.
I want the blood.
I want the blood.
You have abandoned your child. Say it louder.
I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my boy!
A previous role playing a severely paralyzed character required crew members to move him around the set in his wheelchair, and those crew members would curse at having to lift him over camera and lighting wires throughout filming. The commitment extended to every aspect of the character's life, including the embarrassments and indignities that came with the physical limitations. 8 nominations arrived at the 80th Academy Awards with 2 wins: Best Actor for Day-Lewis and Best Cinematography for the film's striking visual approach. Metacritic found There Will Be Blood appearing on 46% of critics' decade best lists when comparing over 40 such lists from various publications, and 5 of those lists ranked it as the single best film of the entire decade. Richard Schickel's review in Time called it one of the most wholly original American movies ever made and labeled Day-Lewis's performance astonishing. The film has earned recognition as Paul Thomas Anderson's magnum opus and one of the greatest films of the 21st century, with Daniel Plainview joining the ranks of characters that will haunt film history for generations to come.
Stop crying, you sniveling ass. Stop your nonsense. They should have put you in a glass jar on a mantelpiece. That land has been had. Nothing you can do about it. It's gone. It's had.
If you would just take this lease, Daniel.
Drainage! Drainage, Eli, you boy. I drink your milkshake. I drink it up!
Don't bully me, Daniel!
Maverick. May 16, 1986 brought Top Gun to theaters and made Tom Cruise a star. Then, 36 years later, Maverick proved he never lost the magic that launched his career. The original became the highest-grossing domestic film of 1986 and the highest-grossing film worldwide that year, establishing a franchise that would eventually break records. Cruise had never approached before. Tony Scott directed with a $15 million budget, produced by Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer through Paramount Pictures Distribution. Jim Cash and Jack Epps Jr. wrote the screenplay after being inspired by an article titled Top Guns, written by Ehud Yoneh and published in California Magazine 3 years before production began. Kelly McGillis, Val Kilmer, and Tom Skerritt filled out the supporting cast in roles that would become iconic in their own right.
Excuse me, Lieutenant. Is there something wrong?
Yes, ma'am. The data on the MiG is inaccurate.
How's that, Lieutenant?
We happened to see a MiG-28 do a 4G negative dive.
Where did you see this?
That's classified.
It's what?
It's classified? I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Lieutenant, I have top secret clearance. The Pentagon sees to it that I know more than you.
Oh, ma'am, it doesn't seem so in this case now, does it?
$357 million came in during the original 1986 release, which, adjusted for inflation, reaches $924.4 million in 2022 money. The soundtrack achieved massive success on its own, reaching 9 times platinum certification and sitting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 albums chart for 5 non-consecutive weeks throughout the summer and fall. Academy Awards and Golden Globes went to the song Take My Breath Away, performed by Berlin, cementing the film's cultural impact beyond just the box office numbers. Cruise earned $2 million for playing Maverick the first time, which seemed like solid compensation until the sequel negotiations began decades later. Top Gun. Maverick brought him a salary of $100 million, a figure that represents more than half the sequel's $170 million production budget and more than 6 times what the entire original film cost to make. The sequel's performance shattered expectations and records across the board. $1.496 billion in worldwide box office made it the second highest grossing film of 2022 and the highest grossing film of Cruise's entire career. Mission Impossible films and 2005's War of the Worlds had all been blockbusters, but none of them crossed the $1 billion threshold globally. Top Gun Maverick became the first film in Cruise's 40-year career to break that barrier. Rotten Tomatoes gave the sequel a near-perfect 97% score, and both the National Board of Review and the American Film Institute named it one of the top 10 films of 2022. 6 nominations arrived at the 95th Academy Awards, including Best Picture, with a win for Best Sound. The Library of Congress had already selected the original film for preservation in 2015, recognizing its lasting cultural significance.
You are still dangerous. You can be my wingman anytime.
Bullshit. You can be mine.
Ray Charles. Comedy defined Jamie Foxx's career before 1999, starting with his 1991 breakthrough on In Living Color and the idea that he could transform into a serious dramatic actor seemed impossible to most observers. Ray changed everything and rewrote the history books in the process. Foxx won the Academy Award for Best Actor and became only the third black man to win that award, following Sidney Poitier for Lilies of the Field and Denzel Washington for Training Day. Golden Globe, BAFTA, Screen Actors Guild, and Critics' Choice Awards all went to Foxx as well, making him the second actor ever to win all 5 major lead actor awards for the same performance. The achievement gets even more remarkable when you consider that Foxx also earned a Best Supporting Actor nomination for Collateral the same year, joining Barry Fitzgerald and Al Pacino as only the third actor nominated in both categories simultaneously. Philip Anschutz financed the entire $40 million budget independently through his Bristol Bay Productions company, after director Taylor Hackford spent 15 years trying to secure funding from studios that showed zero interest in the project. Universal Pictures stepped in to distribute only after the film was shot, and the gamble paid off with $124 million in worldwide box office returns. One executive at Universal reportedly agreed to release it because he used to hitchhike to Ray Charles concerts, creating a personal connection that other studios lacked. The physical transformation Foxx underwent pushed method acting into extreme territory. Prosthetics made of silicone were glued over his eyes for about 14 hours straight on shooting days, completely blinding him and initially causing claustrophobia and panic before he adjusted to the sensation.
We tried so many different ways of making the eyes really look authentic and real, but we went through just glue the eyelids shut, which didn't work out. We went through synthetic prostheses like the rubber kind. It was tough on the eyes, but at the same time, it was necessary because in his life, it's uncomfortable.
Classes at the Braille Institute helped him understand the experience of blindness more deeply. 30 pounds came off his frame for the role, which Foxx later said was the hardest part of the entire preparation. Classical piano training from his grandmother during childhood meant Foxx could play every scene himself without faking the instrument work. Matching Ray Charles's pre-recorded tracks required him to relearn all the fingering and adjust his playing tempo to sync perfectly with the vocals. Director Taylor Hackford explained they had to use Charles's actual singing because these are masterpieces, with 35 songs in the film telling the story through Ray Charles's music rather than having Foxx attempt to recreate that distinctive voice. 2002 brought the first meeting between Foxx and Charles after the casting was set. Charles grabbed his hands and said, "Yes, these are strong fingers," then took him straight to the piano. The advice Charles gave would stick with Foxx through filming and beyond when Charles told him that if you can play the blues man, you can do anything because life is notes underneath your fingers, and you gotta take time to play the right notes, baby. June 2004 brought tragedy when Charles died of liver disease, 4 months before the October 29th premiere. But he'd been able to experience an early version of the film and gave his final approval. His words were simple but meant everything to Foxx when Charles said the kids got it. That endorsement from the legend himself validated every hour spent blinded by prosthetics and every pound lost for the transformation.
You and Marlene have been gaming me since I got here.
Ray, baby, listen.
Got to listen to you.
Look, Ray, let's not do nothing stupid.
I might be blind, but I ain't stupid. Q, get my bag from upstairs.
What you say? Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more.
Anton Chigurh. Javier Bardem became the first Spanish actor to win an Oscar for playing Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men, and the performance earned a distinction that goes beyond awards. 2014 brought a study where a Belgian psychiatry professor and 10 associates spent 3 years watching 400 movies and identifying 126 psychopathic characters, then voting on which portrayal achieved the most realistic depiction. Bardem's Chigurh won that assessment from actual experts in psychology. Producer Scott Rudin bought the film rights to Cormac McCarthy's 2005 novel and pushed Joel and Ethan Coen to adapt it after they'd been struggling with a different project. May 19, 2007 brought the premiere at Cannes Film Festival, followed by 8 Academy Award nominations and 4 wins, including Best Picture. Bardem took home Best Supporting Actor, while the Coen brothers won Best Director and Best Adapted Screenplay for their adaptation of McCarthy's brutal story. $25 million funded the production, which went on to gross $171 million worldwide. 265 reviews surveyed by Rotten Tomatoes yielded a 93% positive rating, and 3 BAFTAs and 2 Golden Globes added to the critical consensus, praising the Coen brothers' direction and Bardem's chilling performance. Reluctance marked Bardem's initial response to the offer, and he told the Coens directly that he was the wrong actor because he didn't drive, spoke bad English, and hated violence. Their response was perfect when they said, "Maybe that's why we called you," recognizing that his discomfort with the role might create something unexpected. Scheduling issues nearly derailed his participation entirely, and English actor Mark Strong sat on standby ready to replace him before the conflicts got resolved. The haircut sealed the deal and became the moment when Bardem fully committed to playing the character. A 1979 photo from a book Tommy Lee Jones owned showed a man in a brothel bar with a similar hairstyle, and the Coens decided that look would define Chigurh's unsettling presence. Bardem joked he wouldn't get laid for 2 months because of the haircut and fell into an actual depression over having to wear it in public. 3 months of living with that hairdo meant going to buy milk and trying to lead a normal life while people stared at him everywhere he went. One look at the haircut in the makeup trailer changed his mind about everything. When Bardem saw what Paul LeBlanc, the hairstylist, had created and immediately said, "Yes, I have to make this movie." Voice coaching helped with the dialect work, though much of what makes Chigurh menacing comes from non-verbal choices that Bardem built into the physicality and presence of the character.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss. Call it.
Call it?
Yes.
For what?
Just call it. Well done.
Entertainment Weekly ranked Chigurh number 26 on their 2008 list of 50 most vile villains in movie history, and Empire placed him at number 44 in their 100 greatest movie characters of all time. Francis Ford Coppola called Bardem an heir to and even an improvement on Al Pacino, Jack Nicholson, and Robert De Niro, praise that carries weight coming from one of cinema's most respected directors. The film itself stands as one of the Coen brothers' finest achievements and one of the greatest films of the 21st century.
You going to shoot me? That depends. Do you see me?
Norman Stansfield. MSN Movies described Norman Stansfield as the role that launched 1,000 villains, and that assessment captures how Gary Oldman's performance influenced an entire generation of antagonists that followed. The performance also contains one of cinema's most famous improvised lines, delivered as a joke that ended up defining the character. Luc Besson wrote and directed Leon the Professional, releasing it in France on September 14, 1994 after shooting on a $16 million budget. Worldwide box office reached $45 million, and ticket sales hit 18,662,979 globally. Jean Reno starred in the title role with Natalie Portman making her film debut and Gary Oldman creating an antagonist that would be studied and imitated for decades. Besson's reasoning for making Stansfield so extreme came from a practical problem during development. The title character's austere nature gave Jean Reno no room to play, according to the director. So Stansfield became a contrasting figure with whom anything was possible, designed to offer comic relief despite being the villain who commits horrific acts throughout the film. Stephen Colbert's show hosted Oldman years later for an interview where the actor revealed that shouting the word "everyone" was intended purely as a joke to make Besson laugh during filming. Normal volume had marked previous takes of the line "Bring me everyone," but Oldman told the sound man to remove his headphones before delivering the loudest version possible. That take made it into the final cut and has since become a meme circulating online, giving the scene a life far beyond what anyone expected during production.
I did a couple of takes, "Bring me everyone," everyone. And to make Luc Besson laugh, just as a joke, I went to the sound guys and I said, "I'm going to be really, really loud, so, And I did that, and he kept it and put it in the film. That was just an outtake. It was just me having a laugh.
Improvisation extended to other moments as well, including the sniffing and invasion of Michael Badalucco's personal space that created genuine unease visible on Badalucco's face during the scene. The speech about Beethoven came from Oldman's spontaneous choices, as did the moment when he sniffs Matilda's father in a display of casual menace that heightens the character's unpredictability. Natalie Portman admitted being terrified during her character's sole interaction with Stansfield, explaining that working with Gary Oldman was probably the easiest acting experience of her life because she didn't have to act at all in that scene. His performance did what great villain work should do by creating genuine fear in his co-star that translated directly to the audience watching. Time magazine's Richard Schickel praised Oldman's performance as divinely psychotic in his review, while Mark Salisbury of Empire awarded the film 5 stars and called it wonderful. Gene Siskel took the opposite view and gave the film 1 star, writing that Besson dabbles with a kiddie porn sensibility and the gunplay is ferocious without purpose, as the hitman battles a crazed DEA operative overplayed by Gary Oldman. 2018 brought sexual assault allegations against Luc Besson that forced a critical re-examination of the film's problematic elements. Maïwenn, who was Besson's 16-year-old wife during filming, revealed the story was inspired by their relationship that began when she was 12 and he was 29. Natalie Portman discussed her complicated feelings about the film and the Lolita-like sexualization she experienced as a child actor.
And what happened with Adrian Lyne's Lolita?
I wasn't willing to do that. It wasn't the right thing for me to do at that time. I wasn't willing to put myself in like a sexual role, when I was 13, 14, and still right now. I mean, I don't think I'd be able to do it now. There was nudity and sex involved, and I think there's enough exploitation out there that it's not necessary to do more of that.
The controversies haven't erased Stansfield's status as one of cinema's greatest villains, though they've certainly complicated how audiences view the film today.
Bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
Ben Sanderson. Nicolas Cage won an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas, but never received the $100,000 promised for his performance, a detail that director Mike Figgis revealed in a podcast interview years after the fact. Figgis also never got his $100,000 directing fee, with both men told the film never went into profit despite earning $49.8 million worldwide on a $4 million budget. 4 Academy Award nominations arrived for the film, covering Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actress for Elizabeth Shue, and Best Actor for Cage, who won the award. Taking the stage to accept it, Cage opened with genuine humility when he said, "Oh boy, $3.5 million budget, some 16mm film stock thrown in, and I'm holding one of these," acknowledging how unlikely the entire journey had been from concept to Oscar victory.
And the Oscar is awarded to Nicolas Cage.
Oh boy. Oh boy. $3.5 million budget, some 16mm film stock thrown in, and I'm holding one of these. I have got to thank the members of the Academy for this, for including me in this group of super talents, and for helping me blur the line between art and commerce with this award.
Extreme preparation marked Cage's approach to playing an alcoholic writer drinking himself to death. Dublin became his research location for 2 weeks of binge drinking that he had a friend videotape so he could study his speech patterns and physical deterioration. The work was one of the most enjoyable pieces of research he'd ever done for a part, according to his own description, though the methods pushed into controversial territory. Filming himself drunk and visiting hospitalized career alcoholics added layers of understanding to the performance. Tony Dingman provided the greatest inspiration as Cage's family friend who was a proud alcoholic. Watching Tony go on a bender and pass out, curled up in a fetal position in the trailer, gave Cage direct observation of the behavior patterns he needed, and those amazing diatribes Dingman would deliver got incorporated directly into the movie. The connection between actor and subject went deeper than simple observation. Mike Figgis revealed in 2022 that Cage wanted to do the entire film drunk, though only one scene got filmed that way. The casino blackjack table eruption where the character screams, "I'm his father," before flipping the table and lashing out at bystanders came after Cage drank a bottle of vodka.
No! No! Fuck you! Fuck! You fucking... Ah! You can't shut me!
The decision to get a real blackout on camera was dangerous and crazy, according to Cage himself, who said he would never do it again and doesn't act with alcohol anymore. But the experimental approach to that scene won him an Oscar. Personal experience informed the performance in ways that made it cut deeper than pure technique. Cage developed a backstory where his character had been divorced and fighting for custody of his son, which mirrored Cage's own struggle to find time to see his child during filming. That fatherly longing became real emotion channeling through the performance, and the screaming scene emerged from a high-risk experiment that paid off with Hollywood's highest honor. Roger Ebert wrote that if there are 2 unplayable roles in the stock repertory, they are the drunk and the whore with a heart of gold, then praised how Cage and Shue made these cliches into unforgettable people. Ebert named it Best of 1995, and eventually ranked it 8th best film of the 1990s. Rotten Tomatoes holds it at 91% approval, with Metacritic scoring it 82 out of 100, cementing its status as one of the decade's most critically acclaimed films.
You can never ask me to stop drinking. Do you understand?
I do.
Verbal Kint. Kevin Spacey's transformation from Verbal Kint to Kaiser Soze created one of cinema's greatest plot twists and won him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, but Gabriel Byrne later revealed that production shut down for 2 days because of Spacey's sexually inappropriate behavior on set. The complications behind the scenes contrasted sharply with the success that followed the film's release. Christopher McQuarrie wrote the screenplay, and Bryan Singer directed on a $6 million budget that eventually generated $66.9 million in worldwide box office returns. Cannes Film Festival premiered the film in 1995 before a limited August release in select theaters that gradually expanded nationwide as word of mouth built momentum. A party after a screening of Public Access at the 1993 Sundance Film Festival brought Bryan Singer and Kevin Spacey together for the first time. Spacey told Singer he wanted to be in whatever film they did next, and Singer took him up on that offer by sending the screenplay without indicating which role was written specifically for him. The call came back with Spacey, saying he was interested in Keaton and Chigurh, but also intrigued by Kint, which turned out to be exactly the role McQuarrie had crafted with Spacey in mind, since the writer wanted audiences to dismiss Kint as a minor character. The police lineup scene descended into chaos because the actors kept blowing their lines and breaking into laughter. Stephen Baldwin made everyone else break character repeatedly, and a frustrated Singer angrily scolded all 5 actors during lunch before they resumed shooting. Nothing changed when cameras rolled again as the cast continued laughing through every take, forcing Singer to use one of the takes where nobody could stay serious, according to Byrne's memory of the disaster.
The police lineup scene. On the internet, everybody says that the reason we started laughing was somebody farted. That's a lie.
The director came to we, the suspects, and said, "You guys are screwing me. I got nothing. I can't use a take."
The lineup scene, they're all in the lineup and they're laughing. We couldn't get through a complete take. They just couldn't stop laughing.
Brian was very frustrated, and he was, I would hearken to say he was just even a little angry.
I think Gabriel is the one who gave you this feeling that he was the most serious of them all. When Gabriel would crack up, it was just like, this is going south.
Oh, you fucking God. Shut up.
Singer convinced every major actor that they were Kaiser Soze during filming, a misdirection that worked almost too well. Gabriel Byrne was so stunned when the completed film revealed he wasn't Kaiser Soze that he stormed into the parking lot and argued with Singer for half an hour after the cast screening. The twist ending became legendary because of how Singer and Spacey crafted those final moments. Extensive conversations covered how to accomplish the transition from verbal Kint to whoever Kaiser Soze actually was, and they ultimately decided that changing nothing except the audience's perception would be more profound than any physical transformation. Verbal's limp disappears, and his supposedly disabled hand flexes normally as he walks away from the police station, revealing the entire con in seconds without a single word of dialogue. Christopher McQuarrie won Best Original Screenplay, and Spacey won Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards. The acceptance speech included Spacey saying that whoever Kaiser Soze is, he's going to get gloriously drunk tonight, before revealing that for him, Kaiser Soze was Bryan Singer, thanking the director for friendship and for making him a better actor than he ever thought he could be.
Well, whoever Kaiser Soze is, I can tell you he's going to get gloriously drunk tonight. And that's a question that I'm often asked. Who is Kaiser Soze? The person who pulls the strings, the person who manipulates, who hovers over us. For me, Kaiser Soze is Bryan Singer, the director of this film.
Hollywood changed after The Usual Suspects opened, with screenwriters feeling encouraged to surprise audiences in final reels, and the success paving the way for The Sixth Sense 4 years later. Roger Ebert eventually coined the term Kaiser Soze syndrome to describe the proliferation of twist-ending movies that followed. Entertainment Weekly ranked Kaiser Soze 37th on their list of the greatest pop culture characters of the past 20 years in 2010. The Me Too movement brought revelations that changed how people view the film today. Both Bryan Singer and Kevin Spacey saw their careers effectively end after allegations surfaced, and Kevin Pollak told a version of events on his 2018 podcast involving Spacey engaging in sexual acts with Singer's young boyfriend that disrupted filming and ruined their relationship. The International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences reversed their decision to honor Spacey with the 2017 International Emmy Founders Award after Anthony Rapp came forward with allegations. 20 years after its release, The Usual Suspects still appears near the top of every best twist endings list. But knowing what came out about those involved has rendered it an unintentional cultural prophecy about how nothing is what it seems.
Every creeping scumbag that works the street for a living will know the name of Verbal Kint.
Somebody with power.
There was
somebody who was capable of tracking us from New York to Los Angeles.
It's Kaiser Soze. You think a guy like that is this close to getting caught and sticks his head out?
You get no Kaiser from me. Because you're stupid, Verbal. First thing I learned on the job, you know what it was? How to spot a murderer.
Tell me you got the cripple in there from New York.
Yeah.
He mentioned Kaiser Soze.
Who?
After that, my guess is you'll never hear from him again.
If you like this analysis, you'll love where I go next. Click the video on your screen and find out.